Welcome to day 14 of the CYP 60-Day Challenge. We started this challenge because we are nearing the end of the decade, and there's a lot that we wanted to do before the end of 2019, and a lot that we want to be able to accomplish in 2020 that we need to prepare ourselves for. So every day, we have been taking little challenges to move us closer from where we are to where we want to be in our relationships, in our personal growth, in our creativity, in our parenting, and in our careers. And so that's been the focus this week, is how do we move forward closer to our career goals? We've talked about some assessments and we've created some plans. And today we're going to explore one of the most important things when it comes to career development, which is our relationships with our colleagues and our boss. Now, have you ever had the situation where you wrote an email or maybe you're in a conversation and you feel like everything that you're saying is rational and succinct and accurate, and yet the response that you receive seems to be emotional? Either they seem frustrated by what you shared, they seem disrespectful, or they're responding as if you are frustrated and disrespectful. Now, I imagine if that's the case, that you have likely incited their elephant. Let me give you some clarity. There is two books, one, The Happiness Hypothesis, and the other, Switch, which both use the analogy of the elephant and the rider. Now, in order to explain the elephant and the rider, I'm going to have to do some crude brain science and explanation for you. There are several parts of our brain. Our brain is incredibly complicated. Two parts that we're going to talk about today are the limbic system, which is the older part of our brain and responsible for things like our emotions. And the other is the prefrontal cortex, which is in the front of our brain, located in the frontal lobe. That is the newer part of our brain, which is responsible for logic and decision making and planning and organization. Now, I've used the phrases the older part of our brain, the limbic system, and the newer part of our brain, which is the frontal cortex, is because this part of our brain developed during evolution early in time. It is the part of our brain that we had when we were running away from tigers and trying to keep ourselves safe and staying close into tribes, and is the part of our brain that is responsible for our fear, our fight and flight motion, our feelings of pleasure and reward. And those emotions, our brain is scanning all of the time for whether something is a threat to us, is going to give us a reward. And based on what our brain assesses, chemical reaction happens throughout the body, letting us know this is unsafe or this is good and this is safe and we want this and we want to be drawn to it. And so much of the way that our decisions are made are rooted in those chemicals that go throughout our body that are telling us something is scary or something is good. And if you worked with us while we were talking about internal fear and doubt last week, you know that those chemicals and that reaction of this is scary and stay away can impact how we believe about what is possible for our lives. Now, what's happening in the prefrontal cortex is our logic. That's newer, that's developed over time, over generations, where we can become more logical, more thoughtful, less potentially emotion-based. In the analogy of the elephant and the rider, the hypothesis is that the elephant, the bigger part, is actually our emotion. It's driving the way that we feel about something. And the rider, the person who sits atop the elephant, is steering the elephant rooted in logic. Now, if the elephant sees something that it wants or it's spooked by something, it is going to run in its own direction regardless of what the rider says. The rider's just going to be holding on for dear life. Now, you imagine that this has happened to you. Have you ever been in the midst of an argument and there's a part of your brain saying, stop? What are you doing? Stop saying this. Stop talking. Stop making it worse. And you just can't. You can't stop yelling. You can't stop crying. You seem to just be overwhelmed by this emotion and can't do anything about it. In the same way, have you ever felt like you're in love or something's incredible and the logical part of your brain is saying, hold on, take some time, just wait. But there's this other part that just wants you to be drawn into it. And so understanding this relationship between the elephant, our emotions, and the rider, the logical part of our brain, is really important. Because we unintentionally may be allowing some of the elephant to drive the direction of the rider. And as you remember, the other people's brains are also built to scan for danger, to scan for threat. And so their elephant is spotting your elephant. What does it have to do with an email? If you are frustrated at work, if you feel resentful over the fact that you are taking on more responsibility than your colleagues, if you feel angry about the fact that you believe that you are not being seen for your potential, if you are feeling bored and disinterested and not engaged in the work, those emotions, whether or not you intended, are going to read through into your emails. So even though you believe that the writer, the logical part of you, is writing those emails, that the writer is the one who's engaged in those conversations with your boss and your colleagues, I imagine that that elephant is peeking through. And when your elephant peeks through, when your emotions come out through these emails, through these conversations, it incites their elephant, which then prompts them to have an emotional reaction before they have a logical reaction. This is where all of those email exchanges that say, well, as per my email, and as you may have seen, and all of that tone that we have is really our elephants posing as writers trying to have a conversation. And those conversations won't go well. And so what do? How do you change your emotion, redirect your elephant so that your writer can be more in control? Well, the first thing is realizing that much of this is really controlled in our brain. The way in which we feel is rooted in our perception. And so we have an opportunity to rethink and relook at our circumstances so that we can redefine what direction our elephant is going and really help our writer out. And so before you write an email, before you enter into a conversation with someone at work that you believe may feel contentious, that may really be rooted in your frustration, in your anger, in your resentment, in your boredom, in your disengagement, take some time first to get clear about that. Write down for yourself, these are all the things that I am feeling right now about this situation. Get it out of your system. The elephant needs a voice. And then get clear about what actually would I love to happen in this situation? What would I want the result of this conversation to be? I'd want the work to happen more smoothly, more quickly. I would love for my contribution in this project to be recognized and for me to be rewarded as a part of that. I would love to have a good conversation and good dynamic with my colleagues and my boss so this doesn't feel like a toxic environment. Write down all the things that you vision out for what is possible. And then start to strategize around, okay, if I feel this way, but I want this to happen, can I rethink about this email, this correspondence, this conversation, so that it is rooted in my vision for what I want to happen, as opposed to my frustration around what the current dynamic is? If you are able, even in slight ways, to make that mind shift so that what people are reading and hearing from you is energy and excitement and a willingness to collaborate and an interest in their work and their contribution, if you can, from an authentic place, allow yourself to give space to those angry, hurtful, disengaged feelings, to, in your mind, revision what you want from the situation so that you can dig deep and find those feelings of engagement, of collaboration, of joy for what is possible in this work. And if you can figure out how to communicate that, say those same logical, succinct, rational arguments that you would in your email and your dialogue, but do that in a way that's rooted in an emotion of being collegial and being supportive and being rooted in the vision and the mission of the work, then it's likely that you're going to get a better response. If you go to the CYP 60-Day Challenge link, either in the comments or the bio, you're going to find a PDF where you can either print or fill it out via the fillable PDF and try this exercise out. Think about a situation that you're working on. Write down all the feelings that you have about it that feel frustrated, that may be driving your elephant in the wrong directions. Think about what your vision for that project, for that work is, and for yourself, and start to explore some ways to have that mind shift so that you can communicate those things a little bit differently and hopefully have a different response from the people who you are engaging. If you are interested in this work and you have missed some of our previous challenges, then go on to our website at craftingyourpath.com. There you're going to find challenges and the handouts from the last week. Up there, if you have missed any of the previous challenges and they're not there, we only have the last 8, then sign up for our newsletter and you will get access to all 60 challenges, all 60 videos, all 60 handouts, and be able to share this with your colleagues, with your friends, with your family, and so you can go on this adventure together. Go onto our Facebook page, share out what you thought about this process, let us know how things are going, and then come back tomorrow as we continue to explore how to get from here to there in our career. See you tomorrow. Bye.